Want to say good morning to you. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of Wncr-Tv Now as we talk about things impacting our state, our city, and our nation this morning. Do hope everyone is doing well. What is it? I don't even know what time it is. 42 minutes. Wow. 42 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour this morning on Wncr-TV. Now, did want to be sure that I did get on briefly this morning to bring some reminders as people will share the Facebook feed later on throughout the day and tune in to the broadcast. One thing I do want to share with you today, let's see if I can get it on, whoops, if I can get it on the thing here. Real quick. Oh, I'm on WNGR. I need to get off of that. Go here. And then go. Oh, wow. Maybe this will pull it up for me. Let's see. Maybe not. All right. This way do it for me. Lord, do it for me. You gotta start asking the Lord to do it for you. Oh, wow. I just wanted the image here. Well, I guess this will do. Will do. Okay, so got that there. All right, so this Sunday, I believe it is. It's Sunday. Is it Sunday, June the 1st? Or is I tripping? Yeah, Sunday. So this Sunday, 6 p.m., is going to be a rural Nash and Edgecombe County listening tour. It's going to happen at the Keenan Auditorium in Tarboro, North Carolina, on the campus of Edgecombe Community College at 2009 West Wilson Street, Tarboro. The people who will be there on this listening tour is Congressman Don Davis, Supreme Court Justice Anita Earls, North Carolina Senator Candy Smith, North Carolina Representative Dante Pittman, and the chair of the North Carolina Democratic Party, Anderson Clayton. Again, that's going to be this Sunday, June the 1st at 6 p.m., slated to be between 6 and 8. And of course, if you're familiar with Mobilize, you can go to mobilize.com and sign up for the event. So there's just sending you a reminder notice, but no sign up or reservation is required. And of course, it's hosted by North Carolina Democrats. So again, you see it there on your screen. It is the Rural NC Listening Tour with Congressman Don Davis, Supreme Court Justice Anita Earl, NC Senator Candy Smith, North Carolina Representative Dante Pittman, and the North Carolina chair of the Democratic Party, Anderson Clayton, this Sunday, 6 p.m., Tarboro, North Carolina, from 6 to 8 at the Keenan Auditorium. So those who can attend, definitely go out. Those who can bring a friend, definitely bring a friend and be a part of a listening tour. Now, I'm assuming that the listening tour is the elected body listening to the people, or is it the people listening to the elected body? That would be a question now I have, but I guess there'll be opportunities for people to speak. I don't know how that's laid out. In fact, let me see what else may be on this. Okay. So again, but those are the individuals who will be there this Sunday, 6 p.m. So come on out to Tarboro, North Carolina. and be a part of that. And be sure to tell a friend about that as well. Hey, caller, good morning. You're on the air. Caller, good morning.
Good morning, Bronson. That is our town hall. I'm proud to say our very first town hall, trying to put Edgecombe County on the map, and that is a listening and question and answers. So when the folks come out, they can ask these speakers what it is that they need to get answers to. And so that's the whole point of putting on a town hall, is so that have been up to, and that we know that they're fighting for the right of the people. So that's what this is all about for this Sunday, and I'm hoping that we fill those seats. Edgecombe doesn't always come out for the meetings, but I want to show these speakers from different states that Edgecombe is engaged and informed, and we want to know what's going on, and we want them to know that they are voted into place to work for us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And room for 1,000 people, so bring one, bring them all, right?
Congratulations to Edgecombe for having these people come to speak. And, yes, let's show up and show out. Let's fill those seats. That place holds over 1,000 people. Let's see if we can get some standing room only and show them what Edgecombe is all about.
Absolutely. We appreciate you there.
You're welcome. I appreciate your telling them.
Absolutely. So, again, that's this Sunday at 6 p.m. in Tarboro, North Carolina. Let me see. So one thing that was interesting, of course, and this happens often, a GOP representative admits not knowing the controversial provision of the big, beautiful bill. Representative Michael Flood, Republican from Nebraska, says he'll push senators to strip out a bill of tax on federal courts. A Republican congressman admitted to his constituents that he wasn't familiar with part of the massive tax spending cut legislation he voted on last week. And Mike Flood was talked about a part of the big, beautiful bill aimed to preventing federal courts from blocking power grabs by the Trump administration. I do not agree with that section that was added to the bill, Flood said, prompting a roar of disapproval from the crowd. I do believe that federal district courts, when issuing injunctions, should have legal effect. Then Flood got an unusual candid from a member of Congress. I'm not going to hide the truth. This provision was unknown to me when I voted for the bill. And when I found out about the provision was in the bill, I immediately reached out to my Senate counterparts and told them my concerns. When I return to Washington, I'm going to be very clearly, tell the people in my conference that we cannot support undermining our court system. We must allow federal courts to operate and issue injunctions. So, I'm not quite sure. And this is going to be, you always hear people talk about constitutional crisis and things of that nature. And so while the legislative body can create laws that allegedly limits or impose federal courts, you would then argue, the court would then come back and say, well, your law was unconstitutional, so it can't be a law in the first place. And so if courts understand their position within the Constitution, now I'm starting to question whether or not courts even understand the Constitution, because there are, you see one injunction, you lift it up, or another one to stay and no stay, and where do we go? It's like a weeble wobble, it's a seesaw, it's a ping pong, it's ridiculous. How about that? Is the better word to use. Say, caller, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Doing well. Hope you are.
Yeah. That Congress you're talking about, Max Floyd, this guy, he said he didn't even read the bill.
That's right.
But why he boasted so much now? I saw on C-SPAN where he had a town hall meeting last week, and the people went off.
Right.
The thing about I'm not about 80 years old, and I've been voting for over 50 years. Even because we had, like I said, we had a congressman down here from L.A. Fountain. This guy, this was back in the day too, with civil rights and everything going on. This guy came back back to his district at least 3 times a year. But these guys now, it's about city people now. I don't understand the young people. These people around here getting all these things, food stamps and everything else don't work. They don't have no incentive for the vote. Mm-hmm. It really, I don't put it on these people that's going to D.C. I'm not like most people. It's up to the people to do what we don't teach our children nothing. You know, it's amazing to me. I have worked for $2 a day, ply the mule all day.
Okay.
These kids now, we don't teach them nothing. I mean, we have had it hard, so I don't put nothing on these kids. If I could go and make $174,000 a year in D.C., I would too. Plus, rest with the rest benefit, I put it on us, the people. Mm-hmm. You know, especially Edgecombe County, because I was born and raised here because I was gone about 50 years, and I just don't understand. I tell older people not teaching their children nothing, so really, it's our fault. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, sure.
I don't vote parties either. I vote the person. I'll vote for a Republican that's the quickest I will a Democrat. Mm-hmm. If the guy talks back out of language. So I guess it's the people. It ain't these guys. If I can get, you'd be surprised what people do when they can get $174,000 a year.
Right.
That's all I got to say, buddy.
Thank you, sir. You know, and it's not unusual for people to vote on something who don't know. I remember the famous line from then Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, said we got to pass it to find out what's in it. So that was so it's not the first time we have seen a person or people who are elected in Congress to basically vote on something they have almost zero clue about something. And so why do they do it is beyond me. But again, the caller just said, when you're paying somebody $174,000 a year and all other kind of powers they have, you'll be surprised what folk will do. You'll be surprised what folks are doing. I know Carolina General Assembly, they ain't getting but $13,000 a year. Okay. So again, I get it. 252-407-8432. That's 252-407-8432. Good morning to Allison Williams. Alice Davis, she's probably watching too, but Alice Bailey, Mary Helen, as well as Gwendolyn Swain, William Manley, Candy State, and Alfreda. Thank you so much for tuning in to Wncr-Tv Now as we talk about things impacting our state, our city, and our nation. And it says condolences to Ray Daltrey and family. His family circle has been broken, so condolences to Ray Daltrey and his family for sure during their time of bereavement. 55 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour this morning on Wncr-Tv Now as we continue to talk about things impacting our state, our city, and our nation. Last night at 7 p.m., the budget evaluation manager, Ken Hunter, gave a presentation of the budget, was able for people to ask questions as it relates to the budget and what they are planning to do. And one thing that did come about it, and I guess perhaps before I got to the other meeting there, that the question was asked about the fund balance and why there's an issue with cutting back or whatever. And so he explained that the money in fund balance was spent with, you know what, I don't know. So let me see if I can let me see if it's on Facebook. Let me see. It's on YouTube, so that's not where it is. It's on YouTube. Let me see if I can find that YouTube video, maybe and maybe not, of what happened there. Let me see. City of Rocky Mount, TV 19. And there he is there. So it's about 22 minutes. About 22 minutes. Let's see.
And also, please remember that all of the meetings that we've
All right.
scheduled today, May 29th, council meeting on Monday, June 23rd at 4 p.m.
Well, yeah, we'll go.
Will take place during the regularly called council meeting on Monday, June 23rd at 4 p.m. We did receive a question about how did the fund balance get low. We did have the opportunity to discuss that during the presentation of the audit a couple of weeks ago. The fund balance reduction was due to several increases in expenditures tied to completion of capital projects, as well as the implementation of our employee classification and compensation program, which took place in July of 2023.
So that was the answer to that. So I was wondering about that yesterday towards the end of the show. What happened to the nearly $12 million? They had $18 million in fund balance, and I think they ended up somewhere around $6.5 million. And again, it was a capital project. It was implementation of the new pay and classification program, and et cetera. So, and again, we kind of figured out the nuts and bolts of what it might have been, piecemealing some things together based on historics. And of course, Mr. Hunter talked about it. And obviously, during the audit report, I guess they shared that as well. So I didn't hear all of the audit reports. So that's good stuff that is out there as well. Good morning also to Dapper Gunter and Gloria Brake. Thank you for tuning in to Wncr-Tv Now. I do believe it was somewhere around $4 million or so to implement the new pay and classification study that came in. And this is during a time where they were giving raises to virtually all employees in the city of Rocky Mount. This was during a time in which there were a number of people asking for additional dollars for sanitation workers. Coming to the city council, going to city council asking about it, some members of city council advocating for additional pay for sanitation workers. And oftentimes, some were asking, well, where would that money come from? Of course, it didn't happen. But just imagine if they gave an additional raise to sanitation workers, where would the city dollars be? And so, again, I think that oftentimes money was spent like that because members of staff would tell city council members that they had the money. And truthfully, you can't go back and say that the council didn't have the money or the city didn't have the money, because obviously they did. It had $18 million in fund balance, and so with some projects or things that council wanted to do. And so they did it. A city manager, for the most part, on large items like that is going to require city council authority and or approval. And so the $12 million that was spent obviously was spent at the hands of council's direction. It was, hey, these are some capital improvement projects you want to do. And the question was asked, do we have the money? They said, yeah, we got it. And they did. When it came to wanting to buy some new property for here, there, and everywhere else, they asked, do we have the money? Yep, we got it. And sure, they did. Now, when it came, the question should have been asked is, if we do this, how close are we with keeping in line with our fund balance policy? And I can almost assure you that in some cases, if it was something they wanted to do and no policy would have stopped them, in fact, they would say, well, we create a policy, then we'll change the policy. And so now that they're at $6.5 million in fund balance. And again, $6.5 million is still a pretty good fund balance. Obviously, you can have more. And this is not the only fund balance. This is, again, the unrestricted fund balance in which they can use at their pleasure. And that's essentially what they did of $12 million at their pleasure that last fiscal cycle. That is why they're probably wouldn't be no LGC coming in and saying, okay, what did you do? Well, I will say the LGC, I think it would be a waste of time for them to come in, because they'll say, well, we found that you broke your policy. Your policy to have 10% fund balance and you don't have it. Well, we know that. So there would be no need for the LGC to come in and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars doing an investigation about them misusing their policy. I think they owned up to that in their public discussion and conversation as it relates to that. And so, of course, they're putting in plans now to beef that fund balance back up. And again, they're going to spend it again. So we'll see all of that happen. Good morning to Betty Archambault. Good morning to Irma Maxwell as well. Thank you for tuning in. So again, that the money in fund balance is for those one-off events, so that they do have the necessary cash to do some things that they may need to do without having to go into financing things. Or if there's a quick emergency, they're able to pull from fund balance to use that money to be reimbursed back from the state or federal agencies for different things when it comes to disaster relief. And so that's why you kind of have that money in place so that you can quickly pay your bills without having any issues with the normal operations of city or municipal government is the ideal thing behind that. And again, I don't think that they are nowhere near zero. And I don't know of any disaster. I could be wrong because I don't have a memory like that of city funding. But I don't recall of a situation where they spent $7 million up front to be waiting to be reimbursed back from. But maybe they have, and they can talk about that at some other time. But I don't recall that, but doesn't mean it ain't true. But I do think that they have enough fund balance to do what they need to do. And remember, not only do you have the general fund balance, you also have the fund balance for each utility account. So electricity has a fund balance, stormwater has a fund balance, gas has a fund balance. And so there is a number of savings there. And then another thing, they kind of talking about is some of the things that the cost of maintaining the utility enterprise, I think is somewhere around, let me find that video, somewhere around, when was that? That was one of these days. That was one of these days. Let me see if I can find, yeah, there it is. I think it was in the budget work section. Here it is. And so when Chris Betchler got up the other day, he gave some information as to what it's costing to run the utility operation side of things. Let's see if we can find that slide there as well. Yeah, there it is right there. Let me go back here. So right here. So this is what he gave and presented to the council on one of these days, Wednesday. So most customer classes are not fully recovering their cost under the current retail sales rate. There have been no retail electric rate increase or change, should I say, since 2017. Rate increases and extraordinary true-up costs by Duke. Now, I think that there ought to be a number of these cities who send representatives to Raleigh, North Carolina to represent them. I thought I had this on pause. To send them to Raleigh, North Carolina to represent these townships and municipalities and et cetera, that they need to handle this true up situation that Duke is saying that they are having, because Duke presents this massive profit annually, and you have legislative bodies, members who may be Duke investors, I have no earthly idea, but would allow these massive 40, 30, or $50 million true ups that these municipalities have to come up with, only, I'm going to say, this is Bronson talking, to give dividends to the investors of Duke, or to give bonuses to the investors of Duke, and they're hiding behind this thing called true up costs. There ought to be some type of legislative relief that if those folks in Raleigh was really concerned about the welfare of citizens in North Carolina, they would reduce them. However, my understanding is when it came to the rate committee, they were trying to get rid of that so Duke could charge as much as they wanted to as electricity. Again, My question would be, who's investing in Duke? But anyway, that was part of the problem. The administrative service charge taken from the utilities have nearly doubled since 2017. Now, it says $4.8 million built into the current rate, but the actual cost is $9 million. Now, the only way to say that they went up in costs, the question would only be that the cost of those individuals working, their hourly rate or whatever, their salary has certainly not doubled. So again, I would want to understand what was the causation that has caused from 2017 to now to go from 5 million to nearly $9 million. What has happened with the cost of providing those administrative things? And most of that stuff is in the finance office there. So what's going on there will be a concern of mine. But ultimately, they are proposing a rate increase on our utilities, and we'll see what happens there. But obviously, something needs to be done. You can't run a enterprise fund. I mean, you can. Obviously, the city's been doing it, but you shouldn't be running that like that. And so, here's a couple of things that he shared at that thing. He talks about the fund balance all right there, so I backed up a little bit. But here's this.
So what we did was we have three rate options that we want to show you. The first one is what we want to do is basically get the residential rate up to where we're recovering our expenses. Now, we recognize that because of the huge delta there, that's not going to happen in 4 years.
Well, I'm looking at that. Okay, so it says the cost to provide residential utilities, 5-year total expenses, $236 million. 5-year total revenues, $212 million. Wow. And I'm sitting right there in the room the other day, but I don't know what I was doing during that process, but over a 5-year total, or 5-year whatever analysis, I'll say, $236 million, and the 5-year revenue would be $212 million.
Years. The other one of our philosophies was not to put a massive rate shock on our customers. So the first option is, let's go stand over here. And it's very hard to see this table, and I have a printout which I will hand to you. It's a 5.7% increase in the residential, and then generally speaking between a 3.5% to 5.5% in the other classes. And you can see from here, we've separated the residential. Under this option, we'll be under recovering about $24 million in the residential. So if you remember the numbers, right now it would be an under recovery of $47 million. This path would reduce that to $24 million. And people that would be picking up the $24 million are basically our medium general service and to a smaller extent our large general service, which are our commercial customers. Larger commercial customers are in our industrial segment. And then what we did is recognizing that obviously could have a major impact on residences. What we did is we started going down from there, and what happens is we lowered the burden on the residential customer. And what this option is, it's a 4% rate increase on residential customers, and the remaining customers would pay rate increases basically somewhere around 4% to up to about 6%. And again, this gap closes to about $30 million as opposed to the 47. And again, it's the same customer classes. It's your larger commercial, your medium general service, and large general service, and then your industrial class that is picking up the balance.
Chris, can I ask a
Sure.
clarification? You just explained medium and large. Give us an example of a medium, like a company, like a welding company or something?
Sure. Say a small restaurants, restaurant, coffee shops, things of that nature can fall into either a small general service or a medium general service. A store in a strip mall would probably be a small general service. In the large general service, those would be like your big boxes, like a Lowe's, Target.
Okay. What about the medium?
Medium is basically restaurants in a word, but I mean, obviously there's more than just that, but some of your larger restaurants.
Thank you.
And the last option that we chose was to, again, take a little less burden off the residential. We started about 3.5% over the 4 years. What that does is that reduces their increases are under recovery, so that there's a delta of about $32 million. And again, it's the same customer classes that pick it up, the larger commercial, medium general service, the large general service, and then the industrial class. And
Each one of those increased the fund balance approximately $8.3 million.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to get to that. This has been on each one of the slides, but what this will do is it will generate us the ability to increase the fund balance by about $8 million. And the last slide, if you take a look at our peers, and you can read who we consider our peer companies, right now, today, with no rate increase, and assuming no rate increases by any of our peers, right now, we have the lowest rates of our peers. If option one was chosen, which is the 5.5.
You know, when he put that screen up Wednesday, and it said the current residential rate comparison, Rocky Mount currently monthly rate is $123.08. And again, I get it. It's just for the electric side, and I don't even see a bill in here. I just don't ever recall. Again, that's residential. Maybe that might be right. Okay. Yeah, that might. But no, I don't know. I gotta look at that. $123 a month on just the electric side of the bill. Hey, caller. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Bronson.
Good morning.
I don't understand how he could have such words to come out of his mouth. We don't want to shock the consumer. Hell, each month you have heart palpitations when you open your light bill. What do they expect us to continue to pay? There is no way that an individual utility bill should be higher than a mortgage payment. And I don't understand. They don't grasp that. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous that our utility bills are so high. I know some say it used to be higher than that, but however, they did not bring it down low enough, the rates, so that the average individual can live a decent life monthly. It's ridiculous what we're paying each month for utilities. And I don't understand that concept. They don't understand how we, the people, feel about that. Mm-hmm. And then they give no concessions as to trying to work with you. Some people, you know, it's either you pay or you're disconnected. And then what about the elderly? Have they ever thought about giving some type of incentive for the seniors? I don't get it. But yet and still, you can go out and buy unnecessary land. And you haven't completed projects that you have already started. Do anybody ever discuss that? You know, we the people need to demand some answers. We shouldn't continue to accept what is given to us or what is fed to us. I see many projects that they have started, and my number one is that CXX shed downtown because it can be utilized on weekends as a good farmer's market for people who have hobbies or other talents. Musical groups could come in. You can generate revenue. However, it sits idly year after year, and nobody ever give you an explanation as to what is going on for them to complete it. The money has been allocated. Fix the damn shed. I'm sorry. What's going on?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I did just look at my utility bill. It's twice 123 on the electric side only. So I don't know who got $123 a month electric bill, but maybe there's somebody. But it ain't me.
Well, even at my mother's house, nobody is there other than when we have gatherings. And I can say that it's reasonable. Each month is $30. So Duke is making it much lighter than what Rocky Mount is.
Oh, you on Duke? Because I was about to say, ain't nobody got nothing.
Over there is Duke.
Oh, yeah, because I was about to say the base, I think, is $26 just in Rocky Mount. So I'm like, how in the way you got a $30 bill when the base is just, that didn't make sense. But okay.
I wish I had a $30 bill over here. I'll tell you, don't let some unforeseen emergency come up over here. I'm calling asking for an extension. I'm calling to say, can you work with me? I'm calling saying something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they don't realize that. It's ridiculous when you get $500 and $600 light bills and my house stay dark all the time.
Yes,
so I truly feel that somebody needs to come in and and monitor how, for number one, they are reading meters. Don't sit on the doggone street and in your car and read my meter. Hell, you could be picking up anybody's reading. Come up and look at the meter. I'm just so fed up with some of the stuff that's going on. I just don't know. And maybe I'm the only one that got a voice here in Rocky Mount. Because I know people probably feel that they're sick and tired of Alice Hunt Davis. But as I said, I'm going to call it. I feel that we, the people, need to get downtown and rally behind some of these high-cost items and why they cannot complete some of the projects that they have already started before investing into a new project.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't complete that. And nobody tell you why. That's my spiel for this morning. Have a happy weekend.
You too. 252-407-8432. That's 252-407-8432. And so, after there was given a couple of comments as it relates to the utility rate possible change or recommended change, should I say, there was, again, some additional conversation, I think, from some council members relative to what that would look like and what kind of impact it would have. Let me see if we can get to that part.
You don't have an average, I guess, on small, medium, and large type, because one of my worries is, putting the total burden on companies, restaurants, for example, small businesses, what the increase would be for them, that is a worry of mine. Can you provide that information, or is it?
Yes. So
It increases, what you're asking.
Right. Or very similar to what we've got here, but just for each other category.
what Kyle's model does is it takes all of your fixed costs and it throws them in, and it calculates if you wanted each customer class to pay their fair share, it will calculate and tell you what the service charge would be. The problem is, if we did that and he did do it for the residential, the service charge would be astronomical. So then what you do is you start shifting some of those fixed costs into your variable costs, which is obviously your cost of power.
Right. But ultimately, as we know,
But I have all the numbers. for the,
right, ultimately, we all know that the increases to restaurants and so forth are going to be added into their expenses, and therefore everybody that
Nobody's
frequents it.
keeping any of these.
Yeah, it's just going to be passed down.
Yeah.
Yes.
When those large textile businesses left the area, didn't the burden shift on the residential? Or
I-
yes, that's
to be
I know
very-
that's before your time, but.
Yeah, to be very candid with you, I don't know how that differential got to be so big on the residential side. That what you suggest is a very logical explanation, and there's probably people in this room that know more about that than I do.
I think that was part of the discussion, that debt that we had to pay was what? In 2026, a large portion of that was carried by residential, since those Burlingtons, Texify, all those large textiles left the Rocky Mount area. So it helped to pay that.
The cost, you're saying the cost burden shifted to the residential side.
So I'm saying I'd rather see should put much more on the residential. I don't like that. Thank you. That's it.
So that was the conversation relative to the utility rate presentation. Of course, they have another meeting on Monday where they're talking more about the budget and taking a deeper dive into different things relative to the budget. Forget what time that meeting is on Monday, but that's going on. Well, let me go to the phone call real quick. Hey, caller, good morning.
Did Councilman Knight say just because these large industries left the area, the cost is being piggybacked on the customers? Did he not say that?
He said he believed that that's what happened when these big textile industries had left.
Right.
That the burden shifted on the residential customers, and of course,
Yeah.
Chris Betcher said he didn't quite know. I don't know either. So one thing you look at is that, again, at the beginning of it, I said that the cost of residential was $232 million. In one model, it was only hoping to recover $212 million. So it seems as though the residential customers are not paying enough. So, and even in all the models, they will never pay enough based on what the cost is. And so there still is some subsidy to residential customers by industries in our community. And it just went to the smaller business.
Knowing Councilman Knight, like I think I know him, he wouldn't have blurted out that comment unless some truth somewhere was behind it. I think I know his personality a little bit, that I can read through what he's saying. But, and I believe that's what's going on. And my other question this morning is, why can't we have a choice as to who electric company we want to work with?
Because the city's not going to allow competition to come in. And then, two, there's just utility service districts. And so Rocky Mount has this area as a utility servicer. And so versus having multiple power grids coming into a community, you have one. And whoever got there first, essentially. And of course, Rocky Mount could opt to get out of the utility business and sell it to somebody like Duke. And it'd be a whole different situation. So the Rocky Mount doesn't stay in utility business.
They let cable come in, different companies, you pick and choose. Why not utilities?
So cable, they actually used to have those cable franchise agreements, right? And so with Rocky Mount, you only had, at that time, Multimedia Cable, Cox, and then Cox became Suddenlink, and now it's Optimum. I think what you're referring to is data lines like telecommunications, which now has become broadband more than anything else, and so through fiber. And so they share just a bundle of same utility lines, and so it's easier to do that. And a lot of that stuff also is now Wi-Fi, and so it's not even hard fixed lines being drawn anymore. Now you just pick it up through little wireless devices.
Well, I don't listen to Nash County, but I don't feel that they have this problem with utilities. Nobody that I know of that has Duke Energy have said anything about the increases. Their bills are moderate, and trust me, I know. I used to be a Duke customer in Raleigh, and it was very reasonable.
Yeah, Duke has like 8
when
million
I moved
customers.
here, I went down to city council, and I preached that shit. How in the world are people surviving it? How in the world do you expect people to improve their living conditions if you have to continuously to pay such high utilities? And Mr. Brunson, I hope and pray that you become one of those councilmen, because I think you will argue the point. I think you would ask for more answers for the people. I just can't see year after year after year, and each time the budget come up, it's constantly increasements. I just don't see it. Give me some relief. I'm not asking for handouts. I'm just asking for reasonable expectations for my utility bill. And granted, I can say, if I need assistance, I can call Ms. Hall, and I can talk to Ms. Hall, and Ms. Hall will work with me with the utilities. But yet and still, I'm going to tell you the truth. It's high. I shouldn't have to. No one should have to when an unforeseen emergency come up. So I'm just asking for some relief with this utility bill. You have your Christmas decorations downtown. Every year, that time of the year, it's not the cold, it's this extra cost that's being put on the consumer for those decorations. Hell, I can do without the Christmas lights. Half of them don't work anyway. Ain't doing nothing for me. You don't have no activities downtown, and those you have in the daytime, you don't need lights, so why you keep charging us? Something to think about. And I know I preach every day, but as I continue to live, I have to in order to survive. Because I need people to hear me and what I'm saying. And if I'm saying it, the average individual is feeling the same way that I am. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And just a note on Duke. Duke Energy serves approximately 8.6 million electricity customers, 1.7 natural gas customers. They represent territories including North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And so Duke is able to provide or share their system cost over 8.6 million electric customers. And so just $1 increase to Duke's budget or Duke's customer bill on a monthly basis would generate them an additional $1.86 million on a monthly basis, right? And so, and what is that annually? About $103 million a year is what Duke could stand to gain just by increasing its utility customer bill by $1. And so when you think about a $30 average bill to a Duke, and of course that's some pay more than that because I've had Duke services too, and I had a daycare center in Raleigh, and you're talking about $258 million a month in revenue minimum that Duke is looking at, and that's the city's annual budget. So it is a hard comparison between Duke, but that is also why I say that when Duke come to, and really what it becomes, and everybody gets some form of subsidy or some sort, I get it. But these true ups, in my opinion, become a way for the government to subsidize Duke Power to continue to make this a massive amount of profit. And I'm not against companies making profits, but don't do it to the detriment of others, especially when you don't have to. And so there ought to be some type of limitations on how much true up they can actually get, and really quantify and qualify that data. That is a true up. That is it's really what it's costing you to produce power, because I really don't think it is. I think it is a way for Duke ever so often to get some additional subsidy for billing, so-called billing the North Carolina municipalities out of the debt that would have expired next year. Again, I think that that changed in 2017. We were somewhat close to 2006, but we did have an exorbitant utility bills during that particular time. It resulted in, I think, somewhere there about a 22% reduction in utility. I think of that 22%, Rocky Mount passed 14% of that savings to the citizens of Rocky Mount. They also created that rate stabilization fund, which was able to handle some of those true ups in which you didn't have to touch the rates for quite some time. And so now they're looking at, okay, the cost of service is this. And so at some point, you're going to have to adjust your rates to be sure that you are paying enough. And again, I think you got to figure out, why is the cost of administrative service fees going up? What's going on that's bringing that cost nearly doubling since 2017? And the only thing I think of is the cost of payroll. Is that, because again, we're talking about administrative services fees. Where are they tacking out for that? How's those calculated? I know that was a question that was asked many years ago, and there was never really a true piece of that. He would say, well, finance is having to do this. And so the other piece is, some municipalities, I think, I got to double check this, then I'm about to say this out loud, but they have totally self-contained their utility company. It is not intertwined or embedded with the city finances. It is its own separate offspring. And so they have their own finance department, finance director, and whatever that handles all of that. So there's no administrative service fees going over here or going over there. It is completely self-contained. Rocky Mount has figured out a way to interweave utilities into its coffers in an effort to do what they're doing. We'll just say that. Look, I got to go. I don't know who's calling the television station phone, but we'll see you next time on WNCR-TV Now.